Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to Natural Gland Bodybuilding. Mountain. And today is a concept that keeps coming up over and over again because I always have people asking me how should they train, how should they move the body or perform a certain exercise, and I always return with a reply in any way that seems to work and not necessarily injure you or not give you joint pain, right? But of course, the beginners of the world, and this is where I was too, right? When you're a beginner, you don't necessarily have the body awareness to understand what is good pain, what's bad pain. You're still in that whole realm of figuring things out. And so what I see a lot of experts do is that they tell these beginners to perform the rep properly, and then they go and show the rep, whatever exercise it might be, whether it's squat or bench press or whatever. They show the rep with really full range movement and show the rep that way to the beginner and say, this is the way you should just start. Just do it that way. Now, there's pros and cons to this. If that full range is the right way for that person, it's going to lead to good results and they're going to feel great and they're going to have that extra flexibility and so forth. But if that full rep is not in alignment with the way that person's built, right? If they're just doing it the way they were told and that's the way it's done and all that sort of thing, eventually they'll start to get some sort of injuries or tweaks or problems. But one thing I think might be a good idea is for people to start anything conservatively. Like when I do my first warm-up sets, I don't go right to full range of motion right away. I try to pump blood in the area first and then I start to go to a fuller range of motion, whatever that might be for me. Because we know that my range of motion is not super full, especially when it comes down to squats, but that's the perfect range of motion for me. And I found that really hits the muscles properly, keeps the pressure off the joints, or at least keeps excessive pressure off the joints. Because I'm still working the joints quite a lot using big poundages like using big poundages like 400 pounds for reps and so forth. I'm still working the joints. So that's another fallacy. A lot of times people will say if you're not working the joints by extending them and hyperextending them and jumping up and down on them and hitting them with a hammer and whatever.
Finally, this portal's given me my opportunity.
With a hammer and whatever, they're not going to get stronger. That's absolute bullshit. If you're training and you're going through any range of motion whatsoever, those joints are getting hit, especially when you're using decent amounts of weight. So getting back to my point, when I start a workout, a lot of times I'll start with even more of a partial range than I normally do with the lighter weights to get the blood in there. Because once the blood gets into the muscle, then it has a tendency to be more flexible and you start to avoid injuries, right? That's why we warm up. You warm up to make sure the muscles are warm and the blood is in there. Then I start to work my way through the range of motion to get a little bit deeper in whatever it is I'm doing. With squats, I do this all the time. I'll do more of a real partial range, like super partial range, and then I'll start to move deeper as the knees start to feel better and more warmed up. This is a better way to approach your exercises instead of just going right into the full range right away. So based on this premise of what I use in my workouts, I would also approach a beginner this way and say, hey, just 90 degrees at the knee for your squat, just 90 degrees at the elbow for your bench press. And I would work with people that way and then see after they start to develop some body awareness if it feels appropriate to stretch a little bit more or not. That is a better strategy, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. I mean, you don't have to even believe it or anything, you know, because there's all sorts of people on the internet with opinions. But the truth is that I want you to learn how to formulate your own theories on training and to apply it to yourself. I'm not one of these guys that's gonna, force you to do things my way. I mean, the last thing I want you to do is do it my way. If I did want you guys to do it my way, no matter what, this is the way my videos would look.
Oh yeah, okay, well here because I'm the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And right now I'm gonna squat, and I'm gonna do the 90-degree squat instead of the squat you guys think is squats. Cause I do 90-degree squats, that's the best way to squat, and that's the way you should squat. And if you don't, that's why you're not the best there is, the best there was, and the best there will be. Oh yeah.
Kind of hard to watch, right? That might be hard to watch, but that is the way I squat because it does feel right to me. But I don't go around telling everybody they're supposed to train that way because again, we are individuals and we are built differently. So there's going to be different dynamics at play depending on the person. So the reason why I'm making this video is a lot of people will ease themselves through the warm-ups and increase in weight slowly. They'll work their way up with 1 plate, then plate and a half, 2 plates, whatever they're doing, squats, deadlifts, whatever, and they'll work their way up. But what I'm also going to say to you is that there is a chance that escalating range of motion is also a valid way to train. As you get warmer in your warm-up sets, then you start to use a bit more of a range of motion. You don't start with full range from the get-go. You start to warm the area up, and then once it feels warm, then you start to use a bit more of a range of motion or get into that full range, whatever that might be for yourself. And I think this is a missing element or tool that a lot of natural bodybuilders don't think about. And again, I'm not saying you have to use this, but if you're experiencing pain in the joints in some area, this might be something that will help you because it's common for joint pain to happen because of an inadequate warm-up. So if you apply this principle, make sure it's warm or the joints are warm or the knees are warm, shoulders, whatever it is, elbows, then you start to increase the range of motion after you're warm. Perhaps you'll avoid irritating the joints at all, and that might be something to try. So this is a different type of video. I thought maybe you guys probably never even have heard anybody talk about this, but this is something I do unconsciously, really. It just naturally started to happen in my workouts because I was tight in a certain area and I would just ease myself into the range of motion that I wanted to use for that workout. And it felt just safer. It felt safer and more comfortable in the long run for joint issues and joint pain and joint integrity overall. So yeah, I hope this at least gave you something to think about. I am working on a book right now too, guys, just so you know. I'm working on a book of, it's not my life story, but it's my story growing up and how I got into bodybuilding and what happened with my influence of my environment around me. And it's more of a comedy / partially instructional manual of how I discovered how certain elements and certain things worked in my training journey. It's going to be available in ebook version as well as audiobook. I'm a fair ways away from it being done right now, but I'm in the first 7,000 or 8,000 words right now. So we'll see how it comes together. But yeah, if you guys want to hear about any funny stories from my childhood and so forth, or if you have any ideas of what you'd like to see in that book, make sure you put them in the comments and I'd love to hear it. Actually, I think I can do that wrestling promo better. Just, okay, here it is.
Oh yeah! Now, Jason the Gallant Natural Bodybuilding is gonna do a squat workout for you, and you're gonna be so impressed because it's the best there is. Best way to squat. If you're squatting all the way down, what are you, a fucking chicken? Are you a frog? No. If you're going to be a mountain, you gotta squat 90 degrees. And that's what I'm gonna tell you right here from ringside. Oh yeah.
Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalgalantbodybuilding.com, and thanks to the Patreon supporters, and take care for now. Moot.
Oh yeah.